What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 21 of Luttie's Look Back. We've got a fun show today full of basketball talk, college basketball talk from all around the state of Arkansas. Then we'll touch on a few other sports from a packed weekend here in Central Arkansas. But first, as we always do, we'll talk about this Razorback men's basketball game falling to Alabama 85-81. It was a tough game for the Razorbacks, a comeback that fell just short for Arkansas. Really, it was the end of the first half and the start of the second half that killed it. A little bit of a run by the Crimson Tide at the end of the first half, and then a slow start for the Hogs. That's what happens when you play against a really good team, a team that when the AP poll comes out today will probably be the #1 team in the country after Duke and Auburn also lost on Saturday. But we'll get to my three big things, how we always begin the show. The first one is the play of Zvonimir Ivisic. And the question I ask is it Big Z or is it Victor Wembanyama? Because he was playing like Wemby out there. Now, those who don't know, maybe you're not a huge pro sports fan because I'm certainly not. You may not know who Wembanyama is. He is a sensational, athletic 7'4" forward/center/guard for the San Antonio Spurs. He's a rookie this year. He was a #1 pick. He's the most highly coveted, talented guy since LeBron James. That's what's talked about, at least when he was in the draft and getting chosen as a #1 pick overall. So, I mean, facetious, I'm not actually comparing Big Z to Wemby, but when Ivisic plays the way he did in the game against Alabama, he could be a player that can be a draft pick. And there were times this year, especially earlier on in the year, where he was playing 6 to 12 minutes a game probably. He wasn't playing great basketball. He was shooting the three ball too many times, and I think people were worried. Is he a three-point shooter? Is he a big man? He's got to figure out his role on the team. And the past few games, he's found his shot, and he found his shot in a big way in this game. And yes, I know Arkansas didn't win the game, but for Z to have 27 points, to put up 27 points, 5 three-pointers. Now, I know he shot the ball a lot, probably a little bit too much at times, but when they needed him, when they needed a spark, it was Big Z in this game. Again, I don't think I would have believed myself if I would have been saying that a month ago, that Big Z was the go-to player, the star for this Razorback team. He had a great game, as did Adu Thero, played bully ball for the Razorbacks, 22 points and 6 rebounds. There's certainly lots of positives and negatives to this game, but probably the biggest positive is Zvonimir Ivisic and the play he had for the Razorbacks. If he can continue playing that well and some of the other guys can start to step up a little bit more, oh man, this is a good team. This is a really good team. So that's my big point #1. #2, the Hogs needed more from their backcourt, from their guards, specifically Nelly Davis. And I talk about Nelly Davis every time on the show. I kind of feel like I'm a coach with him because I go hard on him and I critique him heavily because I know the potential that he has. And he didn't show that potential in this game. He showed it a little bit in the second half. He had 11 of his 13 points in the second half. But Arkansas just needed him at times, especially in this first half. They needed someone to make a shot besides Big Z. And there was some foul trouble from a lot of players, Big Z, Adu Thero, and John L. Davis, so that factored into it a little bit. But they needed Davis to be playing the way he played the past 2 games in this game, and he was cold. A lot of Arkansas shooters were cold in this game, and that kind of leads on to another backcourt guard, of course, the starting point guard, DJ Wagner, and he's had to take an elevated role since Boogie Fland got injured, and he's played really well since Boogie Fland got injured and since Fland has been out. He's taken on that leadership mantra, that leadership mindset. But he was 0 for 4 from beyond the arc in this game, 8 points. Yes, he had 9 assists, so he was facilitating the ball well, especially when the Hogs went on their little 12-0 run with about 5 minutes left in the game. That was awesome. But there was just times in this game where you just needed DJ Wagner or John L. Davis to make a shot. And they really struggled to do that. And then once Nelly Davis started to make shots, it was one of those, too little, too late. Arkansas needs more production from their backcourt. And I understand that shooting three-pointers isn't, that's something that all teams are going to be a little bit inconsistent at. You look at a team like Arkansas just faced Alabama. They shot, I can't remember their percentage, but it was definitely below their average percentage from beyond the arc. It wasn't very good. And that's why I think this Arkansas team could be special, because they aren't like an Alabama where, now I know Alabama just beat Arkansas, but they don't hang their hat on just making shots. They have defense, they have effort, they have physicality, they have multiple weapons. A guy like Big Z who can dunk without barely jumping, but also hit a step-back three-pointer from the corner. I mean, he can do incredible things. They've got weapons on this team. They're starting to form together, and I think they're heading in the right direction. It's all about the direction that this team is headed in right now, because this is an Alabama team that is really good. So you can't hang your hat too much about, man, this is a bad loss to a bad Alabama team. No, Alabama is going to be the #1 team in the country. Alabama went to the Final Four last year. Alabama might be better this year. So it's certainly not a bad loss, but it would have been nice for the Razorbacks to have a little bit more from their guards in this game. That's point number 2. Point number 3, the question, is this team an NCAA tournament team? Are they going to be playing come March, in March Madness? I say you betcha. I think the way this team has been playing the past week and a half, you can't watch these games and say, no, they're not good enough to make it into the NCAA tournament. Now, does that mean that they will? We'll see. Well, we got 6 or 7 games left in the season, and then you have the SEC tournament where you can win 1 or 2 there and you're in, assuming you win maybe 5 of the last 7 or 8. But they got to keep playing with the same amount of energy, physicality, and effort that they brought to Kentucky, that carried over with them to the Texas game, and that they also brought for most of the time against Alabama. But it's easy to get your team up for a huge game against #3 Alabama, a huge game against Kentucky, a relatively big game on the road against Texas. We've seen this year Arkansas has played better on the road than they have at home at times, which is very bizarre to me. I wish I could explain it to you. They get more motivated when they're on the road. But if this team can play like they've been playing the past week and a half, they will make the NCAA tournament. They'll easily get past LSU this upcoming week and a couple of the opponents they got down the stretch. They got Missouri again at home. They got Mississippi State at home. And they got road games at A&M and Auburn. But this team, they're good, and they're good enough to make the NCAA tournament. Right now, they're a bubble team. And I'm okay with saying they're a bubble team. They got to win a couple more games in order to be considered in the NCAA tournament. But if you're asking me, I'm saying this team is good enough to make it in the Big Dance. So those are some of my thoughts. That's a little bit more as far as a broad approach to looking at this team. Let's go back to this game. Let's hear from head coach John Calipari on his team's mindset in this game, and what he thinks of his team going forward.
There was a lot of stuff we did, but you cannot play with expectations and then you go into your own brain. Now you're not playing for us. When you're fearless, you're aggressive, you're here. When you're here, you're like that. And we got away from that. I thought it was cured. I couldn't wait to play this game. And then I'm in the first half and I'm like, this ain't the same team. I think they wanted to win so bad. You can't play that way. Just play. Have fun. Be fearless. Make the plays you have. Make easy plays. This was a great experience for us because we're either in this mode or we're here. And it's going to be hard to win any games in this league if we stay here. If we're over here, we can play with anybody in the league.
I think they absolutely can. I don't know what the two things are exactly. I think it's like, this is how we've been playing for the past few weeks. This is how we started SEC play. There's a big difference in the team that Coach Cal has coached as far as SEC play is concerned. So I'm agreeing with Cal. I think they can beat anybody in the league. They just almost did it against one of the top 2 teams in the league in Alabama. So this team is good. They're hot right now. I know they just lost a game, but they're hot, and if they can continue this momentum, they're really going to be key for them to beat LSU on Wednesday night. It's an LSU team that is not as good as Arkansas. Arkansas should win that game. We'll talk about that a little bit more coming up later in the show, I guess towards the end of the show. That's some Razorback talk. Let's move on to Arkansas State over the weekend. A really back and forth game from that one. And we'll get to the women later, but first to the men in the Sun Belt MAC Challenge. The Red Wolf men, they come back and it was, like I said, it was a back and forth game, a nail biter, but they fall to Kent State 76-75 and 25 lead changes. I said back and forth twice in the last 25 seconds. 25 lead changes in this game. That's a lot. 25 lead changes, 12 ties. Came down to the wire. Isaiah Nelson, if you watch this game, he had 2 shots right there in the paint at the very end, and it was just frustrating as the Red Wolves lose their second in a row. It's tough for momentum's sake. This game doesn't affect them at all in the Sun Belt Conference, which is good. They're still in first place in the Sun Belt. They're still going to get, if they keep winning games, going to get the #1 seed in the Sun Belt Conference tournament here in a few weeks. But it is a little disappointing to suffer a loss against a Kent State team that you're far better than. You're far better than. And a couple other stats from this game. Joseph Pinion, 20 points. He only had 1 3-pointer, 1 for 4, which is rare for him, but I think a good thing for him because he's showing he's not just a catch and shoot 3-pointer. That's what he was at Arkansas. That's what that's what his star potential is with Arkansas State and what it's been like for most of the season, at least the games that I've watched. But in this game, he wasn't that. He was getting to the rim. He had a pull-up jumper or 2. Actually, I can't remember if he had. That might have been someone else. He was getting to the rim, and he made a 3-pointer as well. And he got to the free throw line. That's another thing he did a good job of, is getting to the free throw line. On the flip side, Terrence Todd, a guy who's been great for the Red Wolves this season, 17 points, which is good, but 3 for 10 from beyond the arc. Arkansas State really struggled to shoot the 3 ball in this game. But again, this is a game where it's not a huge deal. It's not a conference game. It was just this weird middle of the season, towards the end of the season matchup against someone else in a different conference. So for momentum's sake, it hurts Arkansas State. For their conference and what it means going forward, not a big deal. So no need to put the panic button yet for Arkansas State. They lost to Marshall earlier last week and then a loss here over the weekend. But this Arkansas State team is certainly very good. So that's Arkansas State. Let's move on to Little Rock. The Trojans, they needed this one, folks, and that's exactly what they got. The men's team go on the road and they get a big-time win, 76-62 over Morehead State in Kentucky. This was a pick'em game. It could have gone either way. Both teams were tied for second in the OVC heading into this game, and it was back and forth for most of it. And then Little Rock just kind of pulled ahead about I think later in the second half. Eagles led for most of the half, and then after the 5-minute marker of the first half, that's when Little Rock kind of woke up and said, hey, we're the better team. We can make some shots, and we're going to start making them. And that started with Jonathan Lawson. 24 points leading the way for Little Rock. 4 3-pointers. He is 5th in the conference in points per game. He is a special player. I was listening to the broadcast talking about him, and it was interesting. I knew he was a good player. I knew he was previously at Memphis, I believe. I think that's where he's from. I knew he's a 4-star. But I don't think I ever connected the dots. I was like, he was really good in high school. He was a top 100 ESPN high school recruit coming out of the high school ranks and playing college ball. And so now maybe he hasn't lived up to the hype, I guess, because he's playing at Little Rock and not a big Power 4 school. But he's showing some of his potential in some of these games lately, and it's starting to pay off with a lot of his 3-pointers going in for this game. Isaiah Lewis added 13 points. The guard has been great this year, especially recently. Toon Gotkick, 8 points, 5 assists, 4 steals. He didn't have his 25 points like he had last week or something close to that last weekend, but he had a really good game for this Little Rock team. He's able to do so many things. He's able to facilitate, get rebounds, get blocks, steals, assists. He can do it all, and it's always great to have a player like that on your team. So that's what's going on with Little Rock. Some of my thoughts from the game. Something we haven't done here on Luttie's Look Back. We're going to get a chance to hear from the head coach, Darryl Walker, briefly talking to his team after the game in the locker room.
Hey man, that's a hell of a win on the road. Yes, sir. Y'all just team was 62 points. We control our own destiny. Let's go back home. We're gonna get some rest for 2 days. We're gonna be ready for Tuesday, guys. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Here we go.
All right, thanks to Little Rock Athletics for that video. It might have been a little hard to hear. He basically just said it's a heck of a win on the road. They held Morehead State, a pretty good offensive team, to 62 points, which is a little bit less than what the Eagles have averaged this season as far as points per game. He also said they're going to go back home, get some rest, and be ready for Tuesday. Tuesday is now, of course, tomorrow against Southeastern Missouri. Little Rock has the next 4 games at home, and that's more of a chance for them to grow their team. It's also potentially grow their lead as far as in the standings in the OVC. After that win, that made them tied for first in their conference. 6 games left, 4 straight at home, and then 2 on the road to end the regular season until conference tournament time. And maybe they can do what they couldn't do last year. Even though we can all agree last year's team was much better than this year's team, maybe they can win the regular season title in the OVC again this year, and then maybe they can win the conference tournament. Of course, if we were going to choose between those two, you win the conference tournament because that sends you to the NCAA tournament. So that's what's going on with Little Rock. Now to Central Arkansas. The Bears went on the road to Tennessee on Saturday and fell 90-67 to Austin P. Injuries have really plagued this UCA team. I talk about it every other week on this show. Elias Cato still out. Lane Taylor, of course, he's out for the season. And then Ty Robinson, he hasn't played all year, the freshman from Lake Hamilton. And then in this game, another injury. I think this happened before the game. Braden Fack-Bimmy, who's the guard for this Bears team that has been playing pretty good in the absence of Lane Taylor. He had a really good game last weekend. Back spasms. Doesn't play in this game. So hopefully that's a thing where it's just, he misses one game, but it's odd for UCA, and I guess it's pretty challenging for Coach Schulman in his first year, I believe, maybe his second. I think his first, though, to try to rally a team and to get a starting lineup out when your top 3 or 4 guys are out. And in fact, Bimmy may not be in that top 4, but he's in the top 7. He's a player. He's a go-to player. He's been starting a lot of these games. So injuries have really plagued this team. In this game, they really had no chance from the get-go against a Austin P team that was a little bit better than them, but you throw in the injuries and they were a lot better, and that's kind of showed in the 23-point difference you see behind me. Nehemiah Turner was a leading scorer, though, for UCA. That's a good thing. Other guys get a chance to step up. When you have these injuries, he had 23 points. But the team as a whole struggled in 2 areas, I noticed, at least statistically looking at it. They turned the ball over 15 times, which isn't awful, but then they only turned the Governors over 5 times. So if you're going to turn the ball over, at least on the other side, get some steals, pressure them on defense, and they didn't do that. And of course, Austin P put up 90 points. And then in fast break points, a lot of the times that Austin P was turning over UCA, it was leading to fast break points. 24 fast break points for Austin P, only 2 for UCA. So a tough loss for them. That is what's going on with men's basketball. Let's go to the women's side of hoops. Hogs on the road almost came back to win, kind of like the guys' team, but fell to Georgia by just 1 point, 62-61. It was a winnable game for Arkansas. There's not many winnable games with this team and how they are this year. This was a winnable game. Georgia only had 1 SEC win on the season heading into this game. Arkansas had 2. Arkansas was still slight underdogs because they were playing at Georgia. But it was a game in which Arkansas wasn't able to get the win. They were up 14-7 in the early going, and then Georgia kind of went on the run to end the first quarter and to start the second quarter. And then they trailed for most of the second half. In the fourth quarter, they started picking back up. They made a 3 after 3 after 3. Higginbottom included in one of those 3. She had a layup to tie. When they needed her to be clutch, she made a couple clutch shots to get them in position to win this game, even though she didn't have the best game. You see it behind me. She shot 7 of 29 from the field. Not a very good percentage. She had 24 points, so that may look decent. She's still the #1 point scorer in the SEC, but she's shooting a lot of shots. She didn't have a great game, but anyway, she got them to where they needed to be, at least down the stretch, and that's all you can ask for your star player to do. And then at the very end, the Hogs fouled Georgia on a layup with about a second left. They make the free throw, and they go on to win the game. Carly Johnson also played pretty good in this game, who's a name I don't think I've talked about on this show yet. 12 points. Higginbottom did a good job of facilitating some of her teammates, including Johnson. Vera Oginwa, the forward for the Razorbacks, 13 points, including one of those big 3-pointers I was talking about in the fourth quarter that helped Arkansas climb back in this game. game, but not enough to get the win. So that is some of my thoughts from the game. Here is head coach Mike Neighbors on what the locker room was like after the heartbreaking loss.
Disappointment, discouraged a little bit because, we did fight so hard to get back into it and gave ourselves a chance. And it was coming up with trying to find a way to come up with one more stop, one more rebound. In fact, we got stops. We could never get the rebound. It's been kind of our, we battled the whole game to only lose, but they get those 3 there at the end, or we win the battle on the boards. We battled so hard on it. And so you're disappointed, and then you get reflective and you think it was the last play, but it wasn't. It was the play in the second quarter, that started their run that really was the one that you go back and you look and go, that was probably just as important. But it's not at the end of the game. It's not when the band's playing. It's not when everybody's got, all eyes on you. But I think we learned the lesson, a valuable lesson. We haven't been in that many close games, that one possession on the road at a place that we've struggled to win forever. You don't get that opportunity very often, so it should sting, and it does.
So another tough loss for the Razorbacks. You mentioned there they haven't been in a lot of close games this year. Most of their SEC games have been losses by like 30 points. So they were close in this one, but not enough to get the win. I talked about the injury bug with a couple other teams, including the UCA men's basketball team. For the Razorback women, it's affected them a little bit. 2 of their go-to guards, shot makers, besides Izzy Higginbottom, she's been relatively healthy. If she's not healthy, she's fighting through at times. But Carly Keats, one of the probably the second best player on the team, second or third, still on a minutes restriction. I guess as of late on a minutes restriction. She only played 6 or 7 minutes. Your neighbors talked about this after the game. And then Kiki Smith also not playing in this game. Kiki Smith, is the number 2 or 3 best player on the team. Carly Keats a little bit further down, but still tough to not have her when she can get hot from beyond the arc. She is really good. So not having Keats, not having Kiki Smith, that affects the team. That affects them in a big way, and I think that obviously went into effect in this loss for the Razorbacks. All right, let's go to Arkansas State now. The women, their 11-game win streak snapped over the weekend as they too lose in the SEC MAC Challenge, just like the guys A-State team. This time they fall to Bowling Green 75-73, a pretty big upset because Arkansas State has won so many games. This was like a lot of teams that I'm talking about, that I'm covering, have had comebacks over this weekend, and Arkansas State certainly might have been one of the crazier ones. They were down 10 midway through the fourth quarter. They trailed for most of the game, and then Kristen Rose hit a jumper. They went up by 2, and then Bowling Green comes right back, hits a jumper, makes some free throws down the stretch to give them the win over Arkansas State. Tough one too, because it was in Jonesboro, so a tough loss for Arkansas State. Couple bright points. Kristen Rose, 29 points, her second highest points she had all season. I think she's a sophomore, maybe. Really good young guard for this Arkansas State team that is continuing to develop before our eyes. So she had a good game with 29 points. The defense was good again. They had 22 turnovers, but when I was looking at the stats, it was rebounds, I think, that affected a little bit of Arkansas State. They were out rebounded 49-28, so a pretty big differential there. That certainly went into the outcome of this game. But just like the men, okay, the women, A-State women lose, the A-State men lose. They were both in this Sun Belt MAC weird challenge thing. So again, does not affect them in the standings. A-State still second in the Sun Belt right now. So they're still fine as far as the Sun Belt is concerned. They'll be fine going forward in the conference. Again, it just affects momentum. Now, instead of having said, we've won this many games, you can still say we've won this many games in conference play. So I'm sure when they win their next game, the social media team will say, hey, we've won 12 games in a row in the Sun Belt, which is something certainly to be proud of, but a little bit of a maneuver way around that. But maybe I'll be saying that on this show. Who knows? That's Arkansas State. Moving on to UCA, talk about win streaks. They did what they were supposed to do. 10 in a row for the Sugar Bears. They go on the road and take down North Florida 72-59. UNF was winless in conference this season, so this game was a little too close for comfort at times, and then UCA kind of pulled ahead. They struggled early on. They were down 8 in the first quarter, and then they kind of turned things around in the second quarter, went up by a little bit, and then UNF cut it to a couple points on a deficit, and then UCA ended up pulling away late in the fourth quarter. They struggled with three-point shooting, and they've kind of struggled shooting the ball a little bit as of late, but they keep winning games. So as long as you find ways to win games, and Coach Kimber talked about this earlier in the week when I talked to him, as long as you find ways to win games, you're fine. Keep winning games, keep the formula the same. Obviously, you want to shoot better. They were 5 of 25 from beyond the arc this game. That's 20%. They normally average 33% from beyond the arc, but they won the game. Leah Mafua didn't make a three-pointer, but she made a lot of free throws, 11 of 14 from the charity stripe to get her to 21 points. Jade Upshaw with 14 points. UCA, as far as the standings are concerned, they've won 10 in a row. They're still one game back of Florida Gulf Coast. FGCU is easily the best team in the A-Sun. That's what everyone knew going into the season. That's how it's been for at least the past few seasons. They're predicted to win the conference. So it's fine for UCA to be in second place. But looming very large, a game in 10 days where UCA will play this FGCU team and try to upset them. So when I had the chance to talk to head coach Tony Kemper earlier last week about that game, this is what he had to say.
You know, Florida Gulf Coast is such a difficult team that's a tough mountain to climb. I mean, they're as dominant as any team in the country in their league. And so from my perspective, I guess coming in here and knowing where we were at when we all got here to where we are now, you know, I hope we keep digging and we have a chance for that game to really mean something when we get to it. But this is a group that I think has been excited about, you know, trying to close that gap with what is a great team. I mean, Florida Gulf Coast is tremendous, and we'll have to be excellent, or whatever adjective is as good as you can be. We'll have to be that to get over the hump against them.
Once again, a week and a half away from that big game. UCA hosts them, so that game will be in Conway. It'll be a really exciting game. We'll see if the Sugar Bears are good enough to pull off the upset. If they beat them in 10 days, either way, they're going to have to face them in the conference tournament, which is a bigger game because that's with a trip to the NCAA tournament on the line there. So they're going to have to beat them at least once this season. If it has to be, if you could choose either time that they're going to play them, because they're probably playing them twice this year, probably going to be in the A-Sun Championship. But we'll talk about that later on. We got those championships coming up very soon. Before we get to some other talk from around the weekend, we'll end with Little Rock women's basketball as far as our hoops talk is concerned. We saw the men get a big win and the women do the same. Maybe not quite as big, but big in the way that they won. We talk a lot about comebacks from this weekend, and Little Rock did it in exactly comeback fashion, 66-63 over Morehead State. It was a crazy game. The Trojans were down 17-3 at the end of the first quarter. They were dead in the water. They were not playing good. They were shooting in the teens as far as field goal percentage is concerned. But give them credit. Slowly but surely, they kept chipping away. They didn't give up, which is resilience. You want to see resilience out of these teams, and that's certainly what I saw, at least watching this game between Little Rock and Morehead State. They were as resilient as they were, though, throughout most of the game. They were down 13 entering the fourth quarter. They were down 10 with 4 minutes to play, and then came their run. Jordan Holman had a couple good buckets. Jayla Brooks made a big-time three-pointer. 3 of her 9 points with the big three, and they just found a way to win. They've had a couple games like that this season, which have been close games. They've come out on the losing side for a few of them. They've come out on the winning side for a few of them. This one, they come out on the winning side, which is good. It was well needed. It was well earned. It was a game in which Little Rock was the much better team, and it was a game in which Little Rock got the win. Jordan Holman, as I mentioned, had a couple big buckets, especially on that run that they made down the stretch, 17 points. Faith Lee continues to be great in the double digits with 14 points. The bad, if there are some bad things to look at, because they did play bad for 90% of this game, and then they just kind of turned it around at the end. The bad, 20 turnovers. You don't want to turn the ball over that much. And 59% free throws. So you want to obviously do better from the charity stripe if you're Little Rock or if you're any team. So looking at it as a whole, as far as the standings are concerned, they're 4th in the conference in the OVC. So they got some work to do to move their way up. But as far as the OVC conference tournament is, as far as the OVC conference tournament goes, if you are in the top 4, not yet. Yeah, the top 2 get a double bye in the conference tournament, and the 2 after that get a bye. So if Little Rock is 4th in the conference when the conference tournament starts, they'll have a bye. If they're 5th, they won't have a bye. If they're top 2, which probably won't get first at this point, but if they're second, I think that's still up in the air. They could still get first, but if they're 1 or 2, they get a double bye. So anyway, if Little Rock needs to keep winning games to have a chance to do that, but it starts with a good come-from-behind win against Morehead State over the weekend. Also, what happened over the weekend, Pine Bluff was in action. We'll get to their scores. Not doing too well for UAPB. The men actually got their first conference win of the season, an upset victory over Texas Southern earlier this week, but falling to Alcorn State in this one, 79-60. That's at the bottom of your screen. At the top of your screen, the women, who just have, I think, two conference wins this season, they also fall to Alcorn State. The final score of 53-40. So that is all the college basketball talk. Now we'll get to a few other sports that happened from over the weekend. It was the opening weekend of college softball. We'll get to the Razorbacks in a second. First, got to talk about UCA. A bit of a rough start to the season for the Bears. They won their opening game against Southeastern Louisiana 5-2, and then they lost back-to-back games against LSU. That was the team that was hosting these little not conference tournaments, but non-conference matchups from the weekend, and UCA was playing in LSU in Baton Rouge, and so they had to play LSU twice. They played a couple other teams. They fell to LSU both those times. It's a Tiger team that is top 10 in the country, so there's no shame in UCA in losing that game. But then they turn around yesterday. They fall 6-7 in a close back-and-forth fun softball game to Charlotte, and then the wrong end of a shutout again to Southeastern Louisiana. So Not an ideal start for UCA softball to start the year. The two players that I talked about, if you watched my preview story from Thursday night of this past week, Kylie Griffin, who is, I think, one of the better players in the conference, maybe a top 50, top 100 player in the country right now. The third baseman, 5 hits for her over the weekend, so pretty good out of Griffin, the third baseman. And then Maddie Young, who so excited to see her debut for UCA, her return to the field for UCA. She missed all of last year with a knee injury. She came back and has a little bit of a slow start for her, only 2 hits on 13 at-bats. So not the best start for UCA, but we'll continue to monitor them on Luttie's Look Back. It wasn't a good start for UCA. It was a good start for Arkansas. They go on the road to San Marcos and play another one of these little tournaments. 5-0, 5 wins, 0 losses. They did what they were supposed to do. They didn't play any ranked teams. They didn't play any crazy tough teams. It was a little, it wasn't amazing at times, but what was amazing, their second game of the season, they played Lipscomb 23-0. They won a softball game 23-0. That's the most runs they've scored in school history. So that's pretty impressive. We know this team has the offensive weapons, or Lipscomb is just really bad. It's kind of hard to tell when you're so early on in the season, but a good start in that game. Games against Texas State and San Diego, little too close for comfort. I think it was a 3-1 win, a 5-1 win, and a walk-off win. So those were exciting games you wanted to win by a little bit more than a few runs. But still, this Arkansas softball team is pretty good, and it starts with their go-to player, the player that is one of the top players in college softball this season in Bree Ellis. We saw when she transferred, I think, from Auburn last year to the Razorbacks. From 2 years ago, she had Auburn. Last year with the Razorbacks, had a great season, and now we expect her to be even better this season. You see her right there. She's fired up, and she was ready to go. She had 3 home runs, 6 hits, 9 RBIs, so a good start for her. Also a good start for Kaylee Wyckoff. She was the one who kind of got them a big-time RBI in their game against San Diego, which ended up being a walk-off win. So 5-0 start to the season for Arkansas softball. Next up on Friday night, they will go to Louisiana Tech and play against the Bulldogs, a Bulldogs team that knocked off Oklahoma State this past weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what Arkansas can do against a Bulldogs team in Louisiana Tech that is pretty good. That's another one of those tournaments this upcoming weekend where they'll play a few teams. So that is Arkansas softball. Now to wrestling, Little Rock Wrestling. If you haven't heard about them, it's a really fun program, only in their 5th year. They're number 16 in the country. They hosted number 2 Oklahoma State over the weekend. They didn't get the win, but there were a couple things that were very exciting for them. One is the amount of people that showed up to the Jack Stevens Center. Over 2,000 fans in attendance, which was a program record. So really exciting. They had a wideout. And if you don't know, Oklahoma State, a perennial wrestling program. I don't know a ton about wrestling, but I know Oklahoma State is really good. Little Rock held their own. They lost 25-13. A big bright spot was Maddie Bianchi. They had a couple wins in this one, but Maddie Bianchi had a big upset win against a really good wrestler from the Cowboys, and it was via pin. So that's the most exciting way to win in wrestling, to pin down your opponent and get the win for Little Rock. So he won his individual match against Oklahoma State, but as far as the team goes, Little Rock falls to Oklahoma State. They'll have a few more matches coming up this weekend in California before they go to the Pac-12 championship, I think in early March. So that is wrestling. And finally to gymnastics. The Gymbacks do it again, folks. They knock off the number 2 team in the country. A few weeks ago, it was LSU. This past week, it was Florida. And they also set a new season high. We've seen them reach over 197, I think just once this year, maybe twice. They got 197.175. So a really good performance for the Razorbacks when they needed it against the number 2 team in the country. And it certainly did help that Florida had some struggles down the stretch, especially on the beam, and Arkansas did their thing on the floor. So it was looking going to the final event, Arkansas on floor. I think it was this, Arkansas on floor and the Gators on beam. They had someone fall. They had some struggles there, and then Arkansas for floor. That's what they're best at, and so they ended up winning that game or that match. So really exciting for the Razorback women. Jocelyn Robertson came in second in all around. Next up for Arkansas gymnastics, Georgia on Friday. Georgia and Arkansas very similar teams as far as gymnastics goes, and they're also ranked close to the same. So that kind of be 50-51. Not a chance to upset a team, but not a chance to get upset. So we'll see if the Razorbacks can pull off the upset. So that's some other general sports going on around our area. Let's now take a look at that Super Bowl score. And this game was dominated start to finish by the Philadelphia Eagles. Kansas City's quest at a three-peat comes up just one game short. 40-22. The game was not that close as it looks on your screen right there. Philly was up 34-0 in this game towards the end of the third quarter. Kansas City scored some garbage touchdowns at the end, but the Eagles dominated this from start to finish. KC only had 12 first downs in this game. Only 12, which I haven't done the math yet, but I'm going to guess they haven't. I'm going to guess it's one of their worst offensive performances of this season. So while Jalen Hurts and the Eagles did play a great game on offense, I think it was the Eagles' defense that really came up big, slowed down the KC offense, and got the Eagles a big-time Super Bowl victory. So we'll end my show how we always do with my Lutties look ahead. The men's basketball team, I talked about it earlier in the show. They need this one. Now, you can say that with every game going forward, but this would be a really ugly loss. You can see LSU only has one win on the year in the SEC. That one win is against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas can't allow to lose to LSU again. I'm not going to say they'd be fully out of the NCAA tournament, but it certainly would not help their hopes to make it into the NCAA tournament. So that's it. That's my show. Thanks so much for watching. I think it's the longest show we've done in our 21-episode history. So thank you for those who have been here through the very beginning and are also just watched today for the very first time. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm always open to critiques and advice on how we can improve the show. I do it because it's fun. I also do it for you as a viewer. If you're curious about how these other teams are, for me to talk about them a little bit longer. One note for next week. No show for next week. Everyone deserves a little time off. I'm taking a little vacation to visit some college buddies, so we will not have a Lutties Look Back next week, but then the weekend after that, we surely will. We'll catch up on a lot of stuff that we missed, a lot of basketball. Softball season has already started, and of course, baseball season this Friday, Razorback baseball season. There's a lot to look forward to with that. This was episode 21 of Lutties Look Back. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.